Hey, CrossFit South Brooklyn, Coach Whit and
Coach David.
Hey, here to show you and talk about the handstand push-up. We're going to see handstand push-up progression as one of the options for our strength training on Thursdays this cycle. So we wanted to review that quickly with you and maybe go through some common errors that we see as well so we can help you out and figure out where to be on the progression. So first thing we're going to show, we'll start with our most kind of foundational version of the movement, is a box piked handstand push-up. And so first thing to note is when we're doing box piked, we generally advise people to use a 20-inch box, which is what we have here, maybe a 24-inch box, especially if you're on the taller side. So for the two of us, for David and I, 20-inch box is perfectly fine. And that's going to be a pretty good setup for most people. So then let's take a look at how we're going to set this up. So when we set up, we want to set our feet right into the center of the box so that we have some leeway off the end of the box. So David will set up his feet, and then he's going to walk his hands back until we get those shoulders underneath the hips. Now we can see we're in a nice piked position. The knees ideally are straight, but they can also be a little bit bent if they need to be, so you can find that nice stack. David has his hands shoulder distance apart, and he's looking at the box the entire time. He's going to continue to look at the box as he brings his head slightly forward and down towards the fingertips, and then he's going to drive his head and chest right back through up towards the box. So let's look at a couple more good reps. We can see David is keeping his hips nice and high as he comes down into that position. And that's our box piked handstand push-up.
Okay, so we're going to talk about a couple details around the setup and execution of the exercise. So Whitney's going to set up again, just like we talked about, feet in the middle of the box. She'll set herself up. So like Whitney mentioned, again, knees can be straight or bent a little bit, depending on your hamstring flexibility. She's nice and stacked here. Now, note that her head is between her arms, right? It's on this side of the blue line. She's going to do one rep. You'll note how her head comes to the other side, creating that tripod that we want. So we want to think about her head coming towards the front of her hands. Good. Very common mistake, people want to drop themselves right between their hands, and that's going to be much less efficient and for the shoulder to produce force. All right, you take a break. Beautiful. All right, cool. So setting yourself up on a seam, we have the tape in the gym. We also just have the seams between the mats. Is really no way to do that. Otherwise, you can even use a target like this so that your head touches a specific spot on the ground that, again, is adjacent to your hands. So let's go ahead and see that one more time. So like this, again, if I can have the dot in front, Whitney will go ahead and hit her target. Okay, cool. Now, in terms of the execution, you'll notice she always comes back to this nice vertical stack, all right? So in terms of the down is the head is going towards the dot, but on the way up, give me one more. You'll notice that she's leading with her hips up and through. That's going to push her chest back towards the box, get this vertical stack happening again and again. I always think about leading towards the ceiling with my hips. Beautiful. You'll see one kind of error. So sometimes they'll set up well, and then they sort of leave their hips behind. See how her shoulders aren't opening up again in the top position, just like they are now? So that's what we're looking for, full range of motion at the shoulder.
Okay folks, so one more kind of main point about our handstand push-up, and this is true whether we're doing this box piked version or any other version in the progression for handstand push-ups, is we want to preserve and work through as much range of motion as possible at our shoulder joint. I like to think of this as you would not, hopefully, come into the gym, throw 300 pounds on the bar, back squat it like a little quarter squat, put it back, good day's work, and then next week come in and just hope that maybe you can squat 300 pounds to here, and then hope that one day you'll actually be able to full depth squat that weight, where you kind of like intuitively understand that that's not how it works. So it's very similar with the handstand push-up. It's a very difficult exercise, and we want to work through that nice full range of motion in the variation we can perform, because that's what's going to actually get us to the full skill. If I start by doing these kind of partial raise the roof reps, it's very unlikely that I'm actually going to build the strength I need at the very bottom to eventually execute the skill. So ways that we might kind of approach this, if you find this box pike variation is still too challenging through that full range, you might even take it to a knee position. So David will have to set up closer to the box. We can see, right, he's quite close to the box with his chest, but we're still approximating those hips getting over the shoulders, and then we'll still be able to bring our head forward and down, nice full range of motion, and then driving back through up to the box. So that's another way we can modify. And I would say more than that, beyond one of these spongy dots, maybe 2 spongy dots is gonna be a nice target for us. But even if we're using an ab mat, sometimes that's really reducing the range. And it's also kind of teaching us not to work with control. Thanks, David. So use your little spongy dots, get through as much range as you can.